Okay, fantastic. So welcome everybody to today's training session, which is of course focused on the MetaTrader 5 platform, on how to trade Forex on this platform. And today we'll be going through tips on how to use the binary MT5 platform, how to set up your charts and indicators. We'll go through some live market analysis, and we'll also go through a watch list of trade ideas as well. And as always, we'll be covering any questions that you may have during the session. Any questions or contributions, feel free to put those into the chat. So before we get into it, let me introduce you to the Gold and Silver Club. The Gold and Silver Club is regarded as the go-to authority on commodities trading, as internationally respected experts. Our analysis and our opinions on the metals, energies, the commodity currencies, they're routinely sought by major financial television channels and publications, which include Bloomberg, Reuters, CNBC, the Financial Times, the Wall Street Journal. And over the last 10 years, myself and my team of experts, we have trained and mentored thousands of private traders from all over the world on our exclusive research-driven strategies. So for further information on our services, please do go to www.jointhelivetradingroom.com. I'll also put the link in the chat there as well to our YouTube channel. So from there, I would definitely encourage you to subscribe to the YouTube channel. That way you get access to all of the reports that we produce as well on YouTube, which typically come out twice per week, at the weekend and also midweek as well, with a report on the commodity markets. And also make sure you subscribe to the binary.com YouTube channel. That way you're of course kept updated with all of the recordings from all of the webinars too. Okay, fantastic. So with that, let's just move over to what we're looking at here in terms of the actual MetaTrader 5 platform. So what I will do, I'll share my screens with you. So I'm just going to move you over so you can see my charts. So you should be able to get that very shortly. Just bear with me as I do a screen share. Okay, so you should now be able to just see the MT5 platform. So just a quick check-in. Yep, great stuff. Thanks very much, Reese. Okay, super. So what we're looking at the moment, we're essentially on the MetaTrader 5 platform, and I'll talk you through as if you have just downloaded the actual platform itself with MetaTrader 5 for CFD trading. So essentially, when you download the platform, within your logins, if you go to the binary.com platform and the portal, when you log in, on the top right hand corner, if you haven't done so already, there is an option to go to MetaTrader. Okay, so it will reside within the top right hand corner of your portal within binary.com. Go down to MetaTrader. From MetaTrader, if you click on MetaTrader, you'll then have two options. One is to open a demo and one is to open a real account. And from there, you can download MetaTrader 5. Okay, so from there, when you've actually downloaded the MetaTrader 5 platform, usually when you get the charts, there will be raw charts initially. Okay, so if we have a look at what a raw chart essentially would look like, normally when you get a raw chart, and normally it's 4, which will be superimposed on your screen, you'll have a chart which is basically a black background, and with that you're just going to have green. Normally it's like this, so you've got a grid in the background, you have a black background with a grey grid, and you've got green bars here. So that's what a raw chart looks like on the MetaTrader 5 platform. It's the same with MetaTrader 4 as well. And you've got the list of all of the markets here on the left hand side, and you can see all of the different currencies here just on the left of the chart as well. What you'll want to do, so from here, let's just take it step by step, because this is how it should look when you initially download the platform. And then what we want to do, we want to build up onto that template, and we want to create a workable way for you to analyze the markets, execute your trades, and to create a watch list of markets as well. So from here, on the left hand side, what you may need to do if you want additional markets is if you right click and go to show all, it will bring up all of the markets that are available on binary as CFD markets. So all of the markets which are available to trade. If you want to build out a number of markets, you want to build a watch list, and I get this question quite a lot. What you need to do is minimize the chart which is on your main central page, minimize that and build out all of the markets that you want to have on your watch list. So let's say, for argument's sake, I'm only interested in the Australian dollar crosses. So if I just build out a list, I've got Australian dollar CAD, Australian dollar Swiss franc here, and I'm just going to build that out: Australian dollar Japanese yen, Australian dollar New Zealand dollar, and the Australian dollar US dollar. Let's say that's all I was interested in trading. If I build out those markets here and I just do window and I just do tile, I'm going to tile all of those. Let's say if we tile them vertically, for example, I'm more interested in just tracking those markets. On the left hand side, if I go to right click and hide all, then I've only got the watch list of the markets that I'm interested in looking at. So I can reduce all of the noise on the left there and be focused just on those crosses. And then I've got them at the moment on the 1 hour time frame. They're all parallel to each other, so I can just monitor them together, but then I'll start just building up a profile. So I'll take one of those charts, for example, Australian dollar CAD, and I'll put that on the daily chart, which is going to be D1. I will right click and then I want to go into properties. So I want to start to modify this chart. So background is black, foreground is white, grid I'm going to do none, bar up is going to be lime, bar down will be red, bull candle will be green here, bear candle is going to be red, and we'll just do OK. So from here we're starting to build out our charts, and we've got essentially the bar chart. So I want to just make that into candlestick charts. So now I'm doing these charts as a candlestick. They are on the daily chart. Still a raw chart, really. I don't have any indicators on that yet, apart from it being candlesticks. What I'll do, though, I'll right click, I'll go to template, I'll save the template, and we'll just call that, for example, we'll call it, actually just put today's date. So let's just do that as the 14th of November 2018 template. And we'll build out on this template, but I'll just show you how I'm going to build into this. So then what I will do, I'll just go and make sure that I've got this template also loaded up on my other charts here as well, which we're just creating on the watch list. The way that you would do that is you go to the raw chart, right click, go to template, and then 14th of November, for example, the template which I've just created there, but you can name that, of course, whatever you want. Just going to overlay the templates there. Okay, so now I'm tracking Australian dollar CAD, Australian dollar Swiss franc, Japanese yen, New Zealand dollar, and Australian dollar US dollar. And I'll just go to window, tile those vertically. In fact, I'm going to remove Australian dollar, New Zealand dollar, and we'll do that again, just tile vertically. And you can see I'm just tracking those. I put them all on the daily time frame. And overall, at the moment, we actually have Australian dollar weakness a bit right now. So Australian dollar, US dollar has been pulling back today, and Australian dollar, Japanese yen is under a bit of pressure as well. Australian dollar, Swiss franc is under pressure, and so is Australian dollar CAD. Out of those so far, I've got my watch list. I just do hide all, and I would be, if I was looking for a sell short, for example, if I wanted to take advantage of potentially the best cross amongst those, I'd say right now Australian dollar, Japanese yen, and Australian dollar, US dollar are weaker than the others right now. The strongest out of those crosses is Australian dollar CAD because it broke above the swing highs today, although there's been no follow through. And the weakest at the moment is really between Australian dollar, Japanese yen, and the Australian dollar, US dollar right now. So I'm building up a bit of a profile for those markets that I want to track on the Australian dollar at the moment. Okay, so what I will add to that, so I've got basically what I'm looking at here from a raw chart point of view. I can look at that on the weekly chart. I can look at it on the monthly as well. You can drop down to whatever time frame that you like to view the markets in. Beyond that, I will add some indicators. So I will give you some indicators which you can add very simply on the MT5 platform. First of all, I add Bollinger Bands. Period 20 deviation is going to be 2, and this will just give us the ranges that we're seeing at the moment. Typically, what you'll tend to find is when the market is within a downward trend, which the Australian dollar has been in, it tends to find resistance at the midpoint of the Bollinger Band. And if it breaks and closes above that, it will continue to follow through until it gets to the upper point of the Bollinger Band, and then it will find support at the midpoint whilst it's within an upward trend. And then if it breaks and closes below that, it should move back towards the lower end of the Bollinger. The Bollinger is good to define profit targets. So when you're long, ultimately, if you've been buying at the lower end of the Bollinger Band, you want to take profit at the midpoint. And if you're buying from a breakout of the midpoint, you want to really be taking profit at the upper end of the Bollinger Band. The Bollinger Band would normally represent resistance. The midpoint would normally represent support. And the lower point would represent a target if you're selling from a break of the midpoint. So the Bollinger Bands is a useful indicator. On top of that, I will also add, we'll see if we can add the parabolic SAR, which can be quite useful as well. And generally speaking, that will help you just with the momentum of the market. So when the dots are below the price, the market is perceived to be within an upward trend and it's a buy. And when the dots form above the price, it's perceived as the market is momentum is in a sell. So when the dots are above the price, overall the momentum is bearish, and when the dots are under the price, the momentum tends to be of bullish nature. You can add a lot of moving averages and so forth onto the charts as well. I'll go through some of the moving averages which tend to be used by a lot of funds and so forth, which I'm sure you're aware of. So we can add the 200-day moving average, which I'll make red. Okay, so that's the 200 MA, which is quite far away from the price action at the moment. We'll add the 100-day moving average, which I'm going to put in as, I'm going to put all of my moving averages as red, actually, just to make them clear. That's the 100-day moving average, which we actually rallied up to today, found resistance at that level today on the Australian dollar, US dollar. We'll also add, the 50. I'm going to just make a modification to the parabolic SAR in terms of the visualization. I'm just going to change that to red. Okay, yeah, there we go. It's starting to build up. And I'm just going to save that as my template. Okay. We've got the midpoint of the Bollinger Band should roughly be about where the 20-day moving average is. I'll just check it, make sure we're pretty much there. Yeah, it's pretty much the same, so I don't really actually need the 20-day moving average because the midpoint of the Bollinger Band represents that really well. And I'll also add to that, I'll add an RSI. I will make a bit of a tweak here to the RSI just to make it faster. Okay, so I'm going to change the properties. I'm going to put the properties as 595. Period will be 2. And just change the color to red. Okay, there we go. Let's just check those levels. Yeah, that's fine. Okay, another, you might be well aware of this, but one thing I do like to do, and there are 2 ways to do this, okay, on your platform. So either you can create a watch list of all the markets at the bottom of your screen, and that would enable you to toggle where you can essentially have a look at all of the markets at the same time, so you can view them all side by side on your screen, which can be useful when you're just looking to see which market might be better if you're waiting for a news item, or if you're just waiting to see which one is the better opportunity. For example, I'm just comparing the Australian dollar crosses at the moment because I see the potential for a bit more downside on these today, and it's a good example at the moment just to show you some crosses and how you can view those particular markets next to each other. Another way you could do that is you can also drag the market from the left. So you could just drag it over. You set up one primary chart in the center, and then you're taking markets from the left here and dragging them out to the center of the screen. So if I just show you, if I go to show all, for example, and bring the remainder of the charts, I can really easily toggle through. And in actual fact, going one step further, I actually slightly prefer to have my market watch list on the right of the screen here. Although it comes down to personal preference there as to where you actually want to toggle that. put it here on the right. So I like to have it on the right just because naturally I tend to be more focused on right to left, where my eyes are reading the screen. So this is my preferred way of doing it. So when I'm analyzing the markets, if you watch the commodity corners, you'll often see that I have all of the charts on the right. And normally I've got what I tend to like to do. So let's say for Australian dollar, Japanese yen, I have one chart in the daily, and then I have another chart which I'm focused on the hourly, and then I can get a better sense of momentum in the market, and then I'll put them side by side. So I'll be looking at the daily on the right and then the hourly on the left, and then it helps to just get that additional momentum in the market. So the Australian dollar, Japanese yen right now, it's at the lower end of the range on the hourlies, but it still looks a bit bearish in my opinion at the moment. It could roll over more overnight and tomorrow as well. So it does look weak right now, the Australian dollar, Japanese yen. And what I tend to do is as I'm scanning through, I'll have the markets here, and as I maybe see something which is of interest, if there's a market like Australian dollar at the moment, you can see on the hourly, if it basically breaks back below, we've got a bit of support here at the moment around 0.710 handle. If it rolls over, if it breaks below the hourly, that should pick up more momentum. And on the daily, it's met a lot of resistance at the weekly highs here as well. So if it rolls over a bit further later on in the session, it might well give rise to a bit more pressure to the downside. It will speed up your MetaTrader as well. So if you do, and you can see Australian dollar is much weaker than the New Zealand dollar at the moment, but if you do this and just have less charts at the bottom, you'll be able to flick through the markets fairly quickly here, as opposed to having lots of tabs at the bottom of your screen. So just being able to toggle from right to left. Again, it just comes down to personal preference. It just speeds up my MetaTrader when you open it and close it. And when you're toggling just between the different markets, it will tend to be faster when you do it in this way, as opposed to having lots of different markets at the bottom there. And you can very quickly just shift between the markets and look for trade ideas. Okay, so beyond that, what I quite like in terms of the actual MetaTrader 5 platform, in terms of just some of the basic charting which you can get on there in terms of indicators, I also tend to use Keltner channels in combination with a number of key moving averages. I like weekly pivots, I like monthly pivots as well to get key levels on the charts, or a couple of additional indicators which tend to be similar to the parabolic SAR, but they don't have a dot under each daily price action. They will consolidate and just fire off a dot for a red if it's selling, or a green dot if it's a buy. But you can pretty much get these quite similar on MetaTrader 5 here just by adding the parabolic SAR. So at the moment, where we can see some of the trade ideas that we're looking at the moment, they would include the Australian dollar, Japanese yen for a sell short at the moment if it continues to see some weakness, and potentially tomorrow if it rolls over and starts to break down further. I'd be looking at that. Seems a bit overextended at the moment, but it needs to a bit more confirmation. You can see the RSI is starting to point down as well, reach the upper end of a lot of this resistance, the upper Bollinger Band as well. The parabolic SAR hasn't turned just yet, but if it starts to roll over, we could get a dot appear over the price, which would then indicate that we could start to get more pressure to the downside here. Then what I would look at here is from a deal ticket point of view, when you're trading on this platform. Number one, you've got a lot more markets available to you. So those are all on the right there. Again, if you can't see those, go to right click and go to show all to bring up all of those markets, and you'll be able to see a lot more markets within your platform. Okay, so what I like about this way of trading as well is, especially if you're transitioning from MetaTrader 5 over to, or you're transitioning from previous trading on binary.com platform, like higher, lower types of trades, binary trades, or if you just want this as an additional tool to your trading with the MetaTrader 5 platform, you get to benefit by not only the price going in your direction, but the amount of movement it moves as well. It's the amount of pips essentially that that market is moving. With Forex, it's very straightforward in terms of you're looking at basically capitalizing on the amount of pips that market moves. So I would typically on any given day be targeting 50 to 100 pips on a Forex most FX markets. Okay, I normally tend to target that just day to day. 50 pips is more in line with what most FX markets would give you in terms of profitability on those markets. But there are some crosses like the pound Japanese yen, euro Japanese yen, some of the pound and euro crosses, which can easily give you 100 pips in a day. But day to day on commodity currencies, it's normally about 50 pips or so. So if we take that, for example, 50 pips, and let's say we're looking at that for a target on a trade, okay? So let's say, for example, we're looking at a sell-off here on Australian dollar Japanese yen, taking the price from 82 down to 81.50, okay, which is basically going to be targeting the next layer of support, which takes us back towards the weekly lows here. So let's say we sell it and we've got a target of 82, well, we get short at 82 where we are at the moment, we target 81.50. And let's say we got a stop loss just above the resistance, which is about 82.50. So it's basically looking for a 1-to-1 there. If we were to target that, or you could go for a slightly tighter stop and look for a 2-to-1, or target just a further move. So you could go for a 50 pip stop and target 100 points, for example, and target a move all the way down to around the 81 zone. Okay, so it just depends on how you tend to target day to day on the FX markets. If we go for that as an example, if we're looking for a target of 50 points, we bring up a new deal ticket here. The way that you could do that is you would be looking to just automatically get filled. So you could put in, for example, an automatic take profit of 81.50. So if the price gets there, you'd automatically hit your profit target. You could put a stop loss, for example, of 82.50, and that would be approximately a 50 pip stop, 50 pip target. And then your volume. So let's say, for example, you went in a volume of, well, you could go in, it really depends on the size of your portfolio. But if you were to go in for a volume of, for example, $1 per point, which would be 0.10, then you'd be looking to essentially, if you're going for, actually we'll make it one lot just to make it really straightforward. So one lot would equate to a 50-point move at one lot would equate to a profitability of approximately $500. Okay, so if the market moved from the 82 zone down to 81.50, which would be a 50-point move at one lot, you'd be making $500 profit on the trade. The risk to that, if it was to hit the stop loss, would be equal as well, $500. If we were to target, for example, 81, we'd be looking then for the market to sell off from the 82 zone down to the 81 level. And if it hit that level, which would be 100 points with a lot size of one lot, then you'd be looking for a profit of $1,000 and the stop loss would be $500. That would be known as a 2-to-1. Let's have a look at a different volume. So let's say you're going in at a volume of 0.10. Okay, so go for 0.10. That would equate to $1 per point. So with a volume of 0.10, and let's say we're targeting 81 on the trade and the stop loss at 82.50, if the trade was to get stopped out, the risk would be $50. And if the trade was to hit the profit target, the profit on the trade would be $100. Okay, so if we were to see a move back down to that level of support, that would be, or the 81 level, you'd be making a 2-to-1 on that trade, and essentially it would be $100 profit for $50 risk. If you were to go in at 0.01, which would be micro volumes, and that's possible to do, especially if you're a beginner and you're starting out, or if you've got a smaller account size, that would mean in this scenario that you would be risking, if we had our stop loss at 82.50, target at 81, we would be risking on that trade approximately $5 to make $10 profit. Okay, so the beauty of this is that you can, of course, you can change the volume, and it doesn't need to be in 0.01 or 0.10 or one lot. You could be changing those. So it could be, for example, $2 per point, $3 per point, $4 per point, $5, $6, $10, $20. It really depends on the size of your trading account, okay, when you're taking on a position. So all of this can be adjusted. Basically, 0.01 would be trading at 10 cents per pip, okay? 0.02 is trading at is trading at 20 cents per pip. 0.03 is 30 cents per pip. 0.04 is 40 cents per pip. 0.05 is 50 cents per pip. If you were to go up to 0.10, that is going to be $2 per pip. And a pip is the incremental movement here. So if you go from, for example, 81.99 down to 81.98, that's going to be 1 pip. If you move from 81 90 to or 82, let's say, to 81.90, that will be 10 pips. And then it's all down to your volume sizing. So what your US dollar per pip equivalent is. So if you're going in at $1 per pip and the market moves 10 pips in your favor, you would then make $10. If you're in at one lot, which is $10 per pip, and the market moves 10 points in your pips in your favor, you would then make $100. So I'm sure you're all aware of that with reference to risk management, but just those of you who are not used to volumes and the way that it's calculated slightly, it's a different way to how you would maybe be used to trading on binary. What you need to remember, and you can write this down, it's something that we teach a lot under the Gold and Silver Club as well, a volume of 1.00 is not like spread betting, for example, where that would equate to $1 or £1 per pip. A volume of 1.00 is one lot, and therefore it's $10 per point or £10 per point. Well, actually, we're talking about in dollars because this is a US dollar a account type. So 1.00 would be $10 per point. 0.10 would be $1 per point, and 0.01 would be 10 cents per point. Okay, so I hope that helps a little bit just with reference to putting on those positions. If you go in at market execution, which is typically what we do, you'd be executing the trade immediately at market. So when getting in at market, the trade would just get executed immediately, and it would be either a sell or a buy, and the trade would just get triggered immediately when you're looking to trade it in that way. If you were going for a pending order, that is where, so let's say, for example, you only wanted to go into a sell short here. If the market was to breach 81.80, let's say, you would then go, for example, for a sell stop, and you can put in all the criteria. So you could put a sell stop here. So for example, the price, only get into a sell stop if the price breaches 81.80, then you want to be triggered, then you'd put in the relevant criteria here. So it could be 82.60, for example, for a stop loss, and you put it your volume, whatever your volume sizing works out for within the size of your portfolio. You can put your take profit there at 81, and everything can just be automated for that trade. So when you put the actual deal ticket on, when you've actually placed the order there, everything is all set, and you would just go for pending order, place the trade, and everything has been set up in advance. We've got all of the levels that we're looking at have all been put in advance of us getting into that particular trade. And then it's all automated. You don't need to necessarily be in front of the screens in order to take advantage of the moves there. Now, of course, for those of you that join us for the commodity currencies, which are the commodity currency webinars, but the commodity corners, which are on Monday and Friday at 4 o'clock London time, we'll be hosting another one tomorrow. During that session, we'll go through a lot more detail. Commodity, we'll go through fundamentals, we'll go through the latest news stories and what we're looking at in terms of market developments, the trade ideas, and so forth. This is more of an instructional webinar about actually how to use the MetaTrader 5 platform, how you can set that up to actually trade Forex here. So just as a bit of a recap for you from an execution point of view and actually just setting up your charts. So just to recap here, I've now saved that as a template. Okay, so the modifications, and if you need to rewatch this, the recording will be made available on binary.com on the YouTube channel. You can go back and rewatch that if you need to watch any of that and go back through it. So essentially what I've got set up here, I've taken the raw chart and I've made the raw chart into a candlestick chart where essentially a bullish candle is represented by green, a bearish candle is represented by red. I've added onto that the Bollinger Bands, the major moving averages. I've added on the parabolic SAR and an RSI as well. Those are just some of the indicators that are actually on the MetaTrader 5 platform. It comes down to personal preference. For those of you that come on our other webinars during the week, we do have some additional custom indicators that we add as well. But this is very straightforward to add those indicators onto your MetaTrader 5 platform. I've added all of the markets on the right here so that I've got the whole watch list, and I can toggle I've moved the market watch just to the right here. I've gone to show all just so that I can bring up all of the markets. And then what I like to do is just as I'm scanning through the charts, looking for trade ideas there, I'll be scanning from right to left. So I'm looking at what is really moving at the moment, where we're seeing a bit of resistance. What I would say at the moment is the Australian dollar crosses look quite weak. You can see where they've come up to a lot of resistance at the 200-day moving average actually. So the Australian dollar Swiss franc looks like we could get some downside if we get a bit more follow through later on today. Australian dollar CAD still looks a bit weak here, although it's not leading the move lower. Australian dollar Japanese yen definitely looks weak. Australian dollar US dollar to me still looks vulnerable to more downside as well. We do have some data coming out overnight. I believe it's the unemployment rate for Australia, so there could be some volatility on that. Australian dollar, New Zealand dollar definitely still looks quite weak at the moment. Euro, Australian dollar also, yeah, the overall trend is still quite weak on that at the moment as well. Euro CAD, some of the CAD crosses have sold off later on in the session, with oil catching a bid today as well. Euro Swiss franc's looking pretty weak. Euro pound as well. I think Euro Japanese yen also has been quite choppy price action over the last couple of days here. A few reversals, but overall it looks to be turning now. Euro New Zealand dollar is still looking pretty weak there. Euro's actually taking a bit of a hit at the moment. Let's just bring that out and have a look at it in terms of the sentiment at the moment as we get towards it. Yeah, it's still turning, isn't it? Euro still looks pretty weak there. Pound has been quite volatile, but look at that. It's taken another hit there as well. Pound Japanese yen. Wow, that's really starting to tank. I think we've had quite a few updates about Brexit today. It's been pretty choppy price action, and you can see the pound is giving back all of the gains there. Let's bring out pound US dollar. And yeah, that's absolutely selling off right now. So I think the play could be US dollar longs here. So you could, for example, see US dollar Swiss franc may catch a bid here. Let's see where US dollar CAD is at the moment. Yeah, it's definitely at the upper end of the range right now. Yeah, my preference at the moment is to go with some of these crosses. So Australian dollar, definitely I quite like a few of those crosses, especially Australian dollar, Japanese yen. Australian dollar, US dollar still looks a bit vulnerable. Euro crosses as well, and pound for the time being. We'll cover those in more detail tomorrow, but the pound is definitely taking a bit of a hit at the moment. Looks like a possible no confidence vote in Theresa May, and the pound is taking that really badly right now. So that's definitely tanking at the moment. And we'll definitely be going through that in more detail with you tomorrow as well, so that we can just talk you through that. And actually, whilst we're on the topic of that, if you haven't seen this already, you've also got access not only to the FX market, so this is more of a Forex based market, so I won't go into a huge amount of detail on this during today's webinar, but you've also got access. You've got access to gold here. You've got access to silver. We're getting some strong support actually on both of those markets today. You've got access to oil on the platform as well. And of course, you've got access to Bitcoin. You've got access to Litecoin. You've got access to Bitcoin Cash. And they've all pulled back today. So potentially we're back at some major levels of the lower end of the Bollinger Bands here as well. So there are quite a few markets, including Ripple as well, which have all taken a bit of a pullback towards the lower end of the Bollinger Bands. You've got access to a lot of markets on the binary.com platform within the MetaTrader 5. So a lot more markets than you do on some of the other platforms here. So I hope that helps and gives you some additional tips there on how to trade on the MT5 platform, how to set up your charting, how to execute trades there, and how to just set up some of the custom indicators that come with MetaTrader 5 as well. Okay, if there are any more questions on that, feel free to put those into the chat there, and do join us tomorrow as well for the webinar that we're hosting at 4 o'clock London time. As I mentioned before, it's well worth making sure you subscribe also to binary.com YouTube channel and the YouTube channel that we've got at the Gold and Silver Club. If you would really like to take your trading to another level and get access to our real-time trade alerts, so you get those via WhatsApp, email, and SMS. If you want access to one-to-one mentorship, expert advice, and just real-time alerts and mentorship, and be able to join us for live trading rooms during the week as well, the link to join us and our community of successful traders at the Gold and Silver Club is www.jointhelivetradingroom.com. Okay, so it's www.jointhelivetradingroom.com if you want to make an application to join us and our community at the Gold and Silver Club. Okay, fantastic. So with that puts today's webinar to a close. I'll definitely catch you back here tomorrow for the Commodities Corner. I wish you all fantastic day, good trading, and we'll speak to you very soon, guys. So all the best. Bye for now. And thanks again to Sharice and the team at binary.com for putting on today's webinar. Okay, thanks again, guys. All the best and take care.